it's the Awanachi conversations. These are real life conversations. These are conversations where we profile different women and soon to come men, discussing different issues around women empowerment. I'm super excited because in this week's episode I will be hosting the amazing Janice Matwi, who's the country director of SCCA Zambia and of course the founder of A Seat at the Table. I'm your host Mpunga Chipepo Simukwa, and do allow me to welcome Miss Janice Matwi. Janice, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mpunga. I'm so delighted to join you on the show. I'm a huge fan of the show. I'm so excited to be featured today.
Yeah.
It's been a while, but I think we finally found the right day.
Yes.
And you know, as they say, all things work together
For good.
Indeed.
Yeah, for good, because we have been planning this. Oh, Janice, you need to come. Oh, I'll come. Oh, you need to come. Things have just been popping up, but I'm excited that we can finally get to just have this conversation. And thank you so much for making time. But just to celebrate you also, I'm a great fan of A Seat at the Table. I literally have to get to A Seat at the Table YouTube every week because I have to get my word for that week. And one of the webisodes that you did was on the brag sheets. That one was amazing. Just, you know, you get to there and I'm always gleaning something. I'm always learning something. And I'm grateful indeed for you and all the amazing work that you're doing. And if you haven't watched A Seat at the Table, I urge you to head over there and of course click that subscribe button. Now, getting into the conversation, you are Janice, the country director, SCCA Zambia, and there's Janice, the founder of A Seat at the Table. Other than these two aspects, who else? What else do we need to know about Janice?
So I always say I'm a narrative shaper, because the moment you don't own your narrative is the moment that somebody defines you, and you might not like the definition. I am also a creator, a curator of safe spaces for people to unfold. And you know, the world needs safe spaces, because as you're unfolding, you're discovering yourself. And sometimes, a lot of the times, you know, we find ourselves exposed. And we find ourselves, you know, feeling like we can't really unfold because we don't have cover. So I think finding, you know, safe spaces for people to unfold is really important for me, in a world that, you know, wants to break you down every chance it gets. So I'm a narrative shaper. I am a curator of safe spaces for people to unfold. I am a mom to the most amazing kids. I've got 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls. I have an amazing husband.
Wow.
Proper support system. They say that, you know, one of the biggest career choices you ever make is the person you marry, and I'm glad I picked this one, because the amount of work and the type of work that I do, if I didn't have the right person, I wouldn't be here.
Absolutely.
And so I think I'm also a sister, I'm a friend, I am a leader, and I'm a coach, I'm a mentee, I'm a mentor, so many hats to wear. But
Wow.
that's me.
Now, Janice, you have a diverse background in business leadership and innovation. Could you just tell us how that experience has influenced your leadership and your driving business transformation?
So I have a very varied, very varied career path. I've worked in telecoms, I've worked in ISP, I've worked in fintech, I have worked in paid television.
Wow.
And now working, in the policy and advocacy space, which is ACCA, and of course education. So that diverse journey has helped me come up with skills that help me look at things from a different angle. Very early on, I realized that in business, and I think one of the things that we mistake, we think getting a job, is getting a job and doing the work. But the reason why a business hires you is because they want you to resolve business bottlenecks.
Exactly.
And therein lies the transformation, right? And so that very quickly led to me understanding what self-leadership is. and understanding how I needed to be, how I needed to show up in the rooms I was stepping into. And so, you know, a lot of the times we tend to think that it's our employer's job to give us motivation. No, it's a very transactional relationship.
Absolutely.
They just give you a paycheck. And that's it, right? And obviously now, you know, in today's world, we talk about the future of work. In today's world, there are people, you know, now, you know, well-being, mental well-being comes in and all of that. But when we were starting out in corporate, you were on your own, right? And so self-leadership allowed me to then understand that self-motivation is a skill. I needed to be able to know why I wake up and why I do what I do. And so in every place that I'm in, I always know that I have something to learn. That whatever happens, I will get into that role and I will learn. And so that, you know, those learnings that I've gleaned over the years have helped me culminate into the leader that I am. And every role has been very challenging. For instance, you know, in my Africa role, I work with teams I've never met.
Wow.
You know, I work with them. It's Teams mostly or Zoom. And so it's been another layer of understanding, how do I motivate, one, a person I've never met, two, a person with a different cultural background, three, a person that, you know, I don't see every day and trust that they're going to deliver on what I ask for. So that then you have to build skills of how to motivate others virtually. And that's a different layer, to the new leadership era. And so, I think, you know, the pandemic was very hard hitting, but for a leader especially, you needed to have a human face. And so I remember we, you know, at ACCA, we went through training where we were told you must always have your video on, right? And you're always working, because the team needed to see your face to be reassured that you were still in control.
Wow.
Right? And you were still leading. And so there was a moment where I had lost my sister, and I was dealing with so many losses around me, and coming onto screen and you know, telling the team, look, I'm having a hard time, but let's do this, right? So yeah, I think those are some of the things that I have learned throughout my various career paths and the various companies that I've worked for.
Now you bring in the concept of self-leadership, a very unique concept, because when we think of leadership, we're thinking outward. In simple terms, how would you define self-leadership?
In my own terms, there's a lot of textbook terms, but in my own textbook terms, is self-leadership is about building the right skills to motivate and persuade yourself and people around you to support your cause.
I like that.
Yeah.
Starts with you, right?
It starts with you, because how are you going to motivate others to believe in you and to buy into your cause if you don't believe in yourself? And believing in yourself means being true to your values and being true to who you are, because look, I know you as Mpunga, and you've been doing Awanachi for so many years. And if tomorrow you say, oh, you know, I'm now shooting music videos and I need you to support me, and I would kind of get thrown off. And I'm thinking, wait, from Women Empowerment, she's now shooting music videos. Hey, you know, who am I to judge? But it's such a disparity, and it will take me a while to get into stride with you, right? So you know that you have a brand. Your personal brand is everything empowering, everything enlightenment, everything. So if you then throw in something and say, you know, I'm going to do this, it's like, wait, which side of Mpunga am I now supporting? So yourself has to be very salient. It has to be clear for others to see. So how you carry your personal brand, how you deal with yourself, how you manage yourself is what gives people confidence to follow you. We know Obama to be the greatest orator of our time. And what have we known Obama for? We've known Obama for being a motivational speaker, a person who impacts change, such that even in politics, when he wanted to stand for president, it was very clear. We knew him as a change maker. He didn't come from nowhere and say, oh, now I'm going to stand for president, you know. you have to be very clear with who you are.
Absolutely. Love this already. Now, in your experience, what are some of the key attributes or practices that you would say contribute to effective self-leadership, particularly when leading teams like you've highlighted and initiatives across different industries or spaces? What are some of the key strategies?
So key strategies is one, build a personal brand. People need to know you. One of the things that I keep hearing from people is that we've seen you work for so many companies, but we know you. And every time you change companies, we want to buy the product that you're selling, right?
Wow.
I had gone from, I've had so many people saying, every time I meet you, I want to study, I'm a lawyer, but I want to study finance now because the way you sell ACC is so well, right? But even before that, I worked for a telecom and people were like, the things you're doing, are amazing, we're motivated. So build a personal brand. And a personal brand is not about how many followers you have. A personal brand is not about how popular you have. A personal brand is reputation. What are people saying about you when you're not in the room? What do people know you for? It's like a calling card that announces you even before you get there, right? So build a personal brand, because people they will not use formal channels to ask about you. I've always said that even when I'm hiring, I will not look at your CV. You have your references on your CV. But if you say, Noasco, I will phone a person I know there and say, can you tell me about this person? How does Mpunga work with the rest of the team? Guess what's going to speak for you? Your reputation.
Yeah.
And they'll say, oh, no, she's disruptive. Oh, she's amazing. What? You're thinking of hiring her. She's an asset, right? So your reputation speaks for you. And so we think that, glitzy glam Facebook pages and all of that is personal branding. It's not. It's how people experience you. So number one, build a personal brand. The second thing is continuous learning. You must endeavor to learn. Learn. Whatever you can do, wherever you can get the information. The internet has democratized information. There's so many online platforms, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, there's the Khan Academy. There's so many free resources out there that you can learn a new skill. Challenge yourself and say, right, in the next 6 months, I'm going to learn how to create presentations with Power BI. Or I'm going to learn about data analytics. Yes, you might be in communications. You might be, in, my hair is all over. You might be, in an area where you think you don't need data analytics. But guess what? The future is tech.
Yeah.
Right? There's AI conversations. Right now, ChatGPT is everyone's best friend, right? Nobody writes letters without using ChatGPT. So learn a new skill, continuous learning. And in that, the other strategy is, as you are learning new skills, understand emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is reading the room, really. Walking into places and understanding, what can I learn from this environment? And it also is very closely tied to self-motivation, right? So emotional intelligence is about managing self rather than letting the environment manage you. So if you feel like, oh, my boss hates me, you will continuously react to that notion. But when you start to manage and say, okay, it's not the tone of voice I'm going to follow of my boss, it's what the content of the message. So if the person, you are always taking time off, you then sit back. Emotional intelligence demands that you sit back and you say, why do they feel that I'm always taking time out? Then you realize you've taken Mother's Day way too many times, or
3 times a month.
You've just not let people know when you've taken, even when you're genuinely ill. So sit back and think, okay, there's merit in this complaint. How do I turn it around and win them over? There's such a thing as managing up. It requires emotional intelligence. One of the things that I learned very early on in my career is you do not take your boss on. They will always win, right?
You can say that again.
They will always win.
How do you even start?
But when we're young, we are wild, we are free, we know. But that person sits in rooms that you don't sit in, and they have more influence than you do, and they can use it either for good or for evil.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you build advocacy around it, right? So first thing is build a personal brand. Second is continuous learning. Third is emotional intelligence. It's, I once had a mentee that I was mentoring, and she was seriously broken. She called me and she says, I've been so scared to tell my boss that I'm pregnant, because the first time 3 years ago when I got pregnant, he didn't take it very well. So I said, you know what, and we had a chat about it. And she called back, and of course I told her, I said, look, he's a man. He might, one, they knew they were hiring a young person who just got married, and you have to reproduce, as the Lord says, right? And so I said to her, I said, just be ready for anything negative, and I helped her along. So when she called me back, she was laughing, and she says, if I had not spoken to me, I wouldn't be laughing, because when I told him I was expecting, his first answer was, again, there's nothing else you can do other than get pregnant, right?
No.
That boss doesn't have emotional intelligence. You're managing people.
Clearly.
You cannot say that.
Yeah.
How did you come into the world, right? You came through a mother, so it's leadership as well. We need to build the right skills. Even if in your mind you think, again, you must be able to say, okay, that's well noted. That's, how can we support you? Even if you're feeling like that. But obviously, he was overcome by the fact that she would have to go and leave. And so how he communicated it.
Been probably many months away.
But even then, you see how he communicated it, right? So she was like, this is what happened. So I think, emotional intelligence as a leader is really important, because you set the tone at the top. You set the mood of the team. How you speak to your team is what they become. It's like children, once you tell somebody you're Dao, that's what they will become. Your team, same thing, right? So build the right, emotional intelligence, build the right skills to lead. And then build sponsors, Sponsors are people that mention your name in a room full of opportunities when you're not even aware, right? These are people that step into rooms that you can't step into yet. And guess what they're going to use? Personal branding, your reputation. So they will say, oh, Mpunga, she's amazing. She does amazing work in the communication space. You should think about her. You haven't advocated for it, but they just sponsor you, right? And mentors, mentors are people that also mention your name in a room, but they would have worked with you directly, and they would have helped shorten your learning curve. And one of the things that I keep saying to people is that, look, mentorship, you don't force mentorship, it's chemistry. I have so many people that come to me on LinkedIn, mentor me. I don't know you. And seriously, I don't have the time to mentor so many people. That's why we have a seat at the table. That is mentorship. So a lot of people have thought of mentorship, and that again is a lack of emotional intelligence. They think mentorship is, Mpunga, until I have tea with you face to face, then you're mentoring me. If I say to you, read one of my articles, they don't even want to, Mpunga doesn't even want to mentor me, and yet she says that she's for women. Her telling you to read an article is mentorship, because you're learning something from it, and you're shortening your learning curve. But I think the world has glamorized, mentorship. We must sit down, we must have coffee, but there's so few mentors that are needed by mentees. There's not enough time for us to sit down with everybody.
Wow. That's a very nice perspective. Thank you so much, Janice. Now, you talk about self-leadership very passionately. What has inspired you to prioritize self-leadership, and how has it sort of shaped your approach towards navigating different fields?
So self-leadership, earlier on I mentioned, I realized that I will not always be motivated, right? And self-motivation is a key. Self-leadership is about reminding yourself of your goals. Like when you walk into a room and you face rejection, it's then sitting back and thinking, why did I do this in the first place? I did it because of this. and getting up again. Because it's not always you'll find a yes, you will find many no's. Like the doors will be shut in your face. People will laugh at you. They will call you all kinds of names. They will be like, "Who does she think she is?" All these things, right? And self-leadership will bring you back to your center and say, "I am going to be the best that I can be. I am going to be a heavyweight champion of my craft, and people will seek me out," right?
Wow.
So that self-leadership is really important because it's a motivational tool to remind you of your center and your true north. Why am I doing what I'm doing, right? Years ago, I think 2010, I started a platform called Corporate Hills. Women movements were not very popular at the time, and there was, I was alone. I was a lone voice in the wind, and everybody thought I was crazy, and I was young, but I believed, and I did it. And at some point, I think I was so invested in it, I didn't really think of the sustainability of it, and I crashed. I had to shut it down, right? But the lessons that I learned from Corporate Hills are what I'm using in a seat at the table. I'm able to say no to a lot of things because I'm like, look, I've been there, done that, right? I ain't going to do this. I have so many people give me ideas like, oh, do you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, thank you for the time and for the idea, but I'm not going to do this because I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing because somebody once told me that all the experiences, that we go through life are basically building our toolbox.
Absolutely.
And later on in life, you
like
begin
that.
to okay, what did I learn from Corporate Hills? Or okay, I'm in this space for a seat at the table. Okay, I'll use this to know from what I know this doesn't work. So it's always a process. So the more reason why I feel like there's no experience that is wasted. There's no failure that is wasted. It is, if we stay at that point of failure, then it is wasted. But if we take that up and still learn something and apply that knowledge or experience in the future, I think it makes a whole world of a difference. Now, obviously, we live in a very uncertain world, Janice, be it in the corporate space, in our business spaces, in our personal lives. How do you navigate self-leadership in a world of such uncertainty, in whatever space you may be?
So one of the things that we are addicted to as human beings is success.
Oh, yeah.
We love winning. And so when you get addicted to winning, you tend to discard your lessons in the places of failure. And one of the things that I did say in my episode on A Sit at the Table was like, do not unpack at your place of failure. And that's something you said as well.
Wow.
So don't get addicted to success because success fools you, right? Learn from those places where things are not working out when everybody walks out from you. In an ever-changing world, get the right skills. Learn. They say the only stupid question is an ask question. Ask questions. Ask, but why? How do you do what you do? I have moments where I just look through my phone book and I think, who am I going to connect with? And I'm going to ask them, how are you doing? So what are you up to? And I'm not being nosy. I just want to learn. It's a bit difficult, I must admit, in our environment because people are like, oh, why do you want to know? But sometimes I learn from, people telling me, oh, this is what I'm doing and this is, and this is how it's going. And sometimes I offer advice. I'm like, oh, have you tried this? And so in navigating changes and in navigating uncertainty, you have to future-proof. Get the right skills. There's so many articles, again, that, that talk about what the future will look like. What skills are you gaining in order for you to future-proof? Don't get stuck on this is my skill. Evolve it. Begin to understand and learn how you can be relevant in the future. Because once you find yourself being irrelevant, you then start being overcome by the fear of losing out, and you become toxic. So you then start, either disparaging others, or you start being this person that always sees things as never working, and so build the right skills to future-proof your career, to future-proof your personal brand, because in the future that we're going into, the emotional intelligence becomes a big piece. Emotional quotient. So there's the hard skills, which is the technical quotient, and there's the soft skills, which is the emotional quotient. So how can you leverage what you have in order to build the emotional quotient in other people? We are all teachers. A lot of people, I have a friend, she's an engineer, and she was like, I can't teach. I'm like, but how many times have you, when I was asking you about the bridge at Levy Mall and why it's so flat, and you explained to me, oh, it's like this and that, you were teaching me. So she says, oh, actually, yeah. Yeah. I said, we're all teachers.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into a world where we are all coaches. We are all mentors. So leverage that. How do you monetize that? In order for you to become relevant, future-proofing is super important.
Wow. Yeah. I'm taking it all in, and I'm sure the viewers are taking it all in. Now, how do you balance the demands of leadership and personal growth and well-being? There's this narrative around wellness, physical wellness, spiritual wellness, mental wellness. How do you balance the demands of being that leader that shows up good, that is self-inspired, self-motivated, but still able to motivate the people around them?
So one of my favorite quotes of all time is, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? I can't pour from an empty place. And so I don't balance things, because balance requires for everything to be balanced. I harmonize, right? So harmony is something will be less and something will be more. There are seasons where I'm pouring into people because I'm full, right? There are seasons that I'm pouring and pouring and pouring because I'm full there, I replenished. But there are seasons where I'm empty and I have to withdraw. So I withdraw usually from, I have very weird ways of replenishing. I don't have notifications on my phone. So I will reach for my phone when I want to, not because, so my phone is usually on silent when it's family time. My notifications have been off for 3 years since COVID, because it gave me anxiety having to look at my phone, because I was getting a lot of bad news at the time.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know, whether friends, family, it's like, oh, this one has died. So I then turned off notifications. So I have to reach for my phone. So I haven't given my phone power over me. I have power over it. And I once watched the creator of Grey's Anatomy, Shonda Rhimes, and she was talking about how when we give, we're depleted. She discovered the power of play. I have a toddler who demands that we play tea and we build castles in the air. That allows me to step away from the pressures of the world.
Yeah.
And that is really important. And my friends know that. Like weekends is for my kids. And there are times, yes, I'll be on WhatsApp. And then also I unfollowed accounts on Instagram that made me feel a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
I shut down Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. We have a company page, but that's managed by a team. But I'm not on Facebook because I felt Facebook was really overwhelming for me. And my husband and I date a lot. He's my bestie. He's the person that he's my sounding board. And I'm very intentional about putting dates with my girlfriends in my diary. They don't always work out, but and then work. I leave work at work, and I'm really, really privileged to work for an employer that actually has wellness days. So you can actually pick a day of the week, once a month, where you're not doing any work. You're just taking care of yourself. You can put it in your calendar, let your colleagues know, and then in terms of creating safe spaces, it depletes me a lot, because sometimes I have to get a lot of people's negative energy and sadness. And so again, I also have to create a safe space for me. And my safe space is I binge watch telly. It's an escape for me. So I have Apple TV, I have, Netflix. I have, Showmax. I am a huge fan, and I binge watch. And when I'm watching my TV, I don't even touch my phone or whatever it is. And I have spa days. I treat myself to spa days at least once every 2 months. I used to say once a month.
Very important.
And that's how I replenish. And so for me, it's not about balance, it's about harmony. Creating a harmonious ecosystem in order for me to thrive and others to thrive, because I'm also a conduit for other people's mental wellness. I'm a coach, I'm an executive coach, so sometimes I have my clients that will come and say, look, I'm feeling this, and we have to, sometimes in their unpacking, I'm also learning. I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm telling her this, have I done this myself?
Exactly. Not to cut you short, Janice, you bring in an important perspective of social media. And how do you create that, I don't know, you call it a balance or synergy between the self-leadership aspect and wanting to be visible on social media and focusing on those likes, focusing on those following, and just how draining that can be on you as a leader? How would you encourage one to navigate that? I like the approach that you've taken. That's a very unique one. But how many people would sort of take that approach? But in the event that they can't, what would be your advice to such a one?
So strategies around managing social media and the intrusive nature of social media.
The need to maybe to be visible as a leader. You want to show, this is what I'm doing, this is what I've achieved. Like just putting yourself out there.
So one of the things that I do with my clients is I encourage them to create a social media calendar, and every month you have a theme. So if you feel you can post once a week. The algorithm otherwise will kick you out. But once a week. So you tell yourself, what am I posting about this week, right? This month. So this is, for me, this is Financial Fitness Month. So you give tips. It doesn't always have to be about you. It's about your experience. Remember I talked about how we are coaches and mentors and teachers. Give an experience based on what you've gone through. So it could be you're just giving tips on savings and how people can save, and you can put yourself in and say, look, for instance, I've stopped eating out every I used to eat out every 3 times a week, so I now eat out, and the money that I save I put it in this account. So that's not really me. It's there to help somebody. If you want to talk about the things that you're doing, you're delivering a project, you can. And that's the easiest. It's about, I helped lead this project, and these were the objectives of why we started. These are the lessons we learned, and this was the outcome. And that makes it very easy for you, because I think people get overwhelmed with social media because they think I have to have a picture of me shaking hands, and sometimes I use stock images of just a handshake and say, we closed the deal. We had a conversation. So it's not really about you. As long as it's on your page, you're actually sharing experiences. And remember, social media is reputation building. It's not about look at me. It's about look what I can do for you. Right?
Look what I can do for you. Amazing. It's amazing how time has gone by so fast. But before I let you go, Janice, how do you see the role of women in leadership evolve, particularly in Zambia? And obviously there's a broader African and global context, but I'd like to bring it down to home. What do you think the future looks like for women in leadership in Zambia? And also just what are the opportunities for future generations, of female leaders when they look at people like you and they want to become a Janice one day? What does the future look like for them?
So the future, one of the things, ACCA does a lot of research into future business trends. And one of the things that we had found out 5 years ago is that the superpower of leaders and this is leaders, male and female, was the emotional quotient and moving away from transactional leadership. Guess who has that ingrown superpower? Women. We are nurturers.
Of course, plenty of it.
Absolutely. So we're nurturers. So we have that opportunity to be great leaders by moving away from transactional relationships. It's the first time in 100 years that we have 5 generations working in one workspace. And each one of these generations have different needs, right? And the Gen Zers, the Generation Z have specific needs. And mental wellness is top of their agenda. These are young people that would just quit a job because they think their boss is toxic. We lived with toxic bosses and we were like, this
was okay.
He doesn't really like me, but I have to go for work. You would cry in the car for 30 minutes and dust yourself up. But we are living in a world where now a leader leads from behind. A leader then is leading also by example. You have to be in the trenches, and women do that all the time. So we already have that innate ability to be tomorrow's leader, the future leader, right? So how do we then amplify that? We just need skills training to unlock that what's already in us. And that's what the future looks like for women leaders. In Zambia, collaboration, right? The future is collaboration. I'm going to circle back to ACCA. We've aligned our business strategy to the UN SDGs, and one of the UN SDGs is partnerships and collaboration for a better world, right? So if companies are doing it, who are we not to do it? So how do we collaborate and bring in people into spaces they've been previously excluded from? We are talking about, I'm a diversity, equity and inclusion champion. We are talking about diversity and inclusion. Women, we've been inclusive. We've taken in cousins and stepchildren and orphans. We are the champions of diversity and inclusion, for crying out loud.
Absolutely.
We just need to move that into the workplace and start looking around. How can this environment be more accommodating? Not just for women. And that's why I was so delighted to hear that you are now, you are moving from just females, but also becoming inclusive, because
we want the men
even the men, the allies need to come to the table, because otherwise we'll have all of these conversations on our own and go to them and they will not buy in. But if you bring them in at the beginning and tell them, this is what, we're not looking to replace you, we're looking to work with you in a cohesive and collaborative environment. That will work better for us. So diversity and inclusion should not just be a word, and us women are the ones to be able to say, look, I've walked into rooms and I'm being told, I've walked into rooms and I'm being told, oh, this is a CEO's meeting. I'm like, yes, I'm here for it. No, madam, this is a CEO's meeting.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, yes, I am. And I take my seat. Boldly so. And then, and this is a female telling you, madam, you're in the wrong place, right?
Wow.
But I don't blame people like that. I don't blame people that, because we've been conditioned to be exclusionary of women for so long, for centuries. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take teamwork, collaboration for us to just change that narrative, right? And so it's being able to walk into a room. I walk into certain rooms, I'm like, where are all the women? You also with your women issues. I'm like, no. The reason why women should be in this room is because we're discussing this, that, and this affects women. But you're a woman. I'm like, and I'm the only one. I never want to be the only one to do it, it's nice to be the first one, but I shouldn't be the last. Right? So bring everyone along, change the narrative. I get really happy when I talk about ACCA has a lot of policies around inclusion. Most recently, the ACCA launched the menopausal policy, premenopause.
Whoa,
like
that's
who
beautiful.
And there are a lot of women that are still in the workplace that are going through that, and they can't talk about it. They don't have the safety to talk about it. But but it must take a woman to say, look, this policy is needed. Somebody's having hot flashes in the boardroom. They shouldn't be orchestrated and say, oh, she's a drama queen, right? They're going through a biological thing, and it's their right to be protected, but still have a place in the workplace. So I think for me, that is the future of leadership.
I know for sure this conversation needed to go on, but we have to end here.
Absolutely.
We will definitely, I hope you will allow us, invite you for part 2 of this conversation, because I feel like we've only scratched. There's a lot more that we needed to touch on. But just to thank you, Janice, once again for making time to be a part of our conversation. We don't take it for granted. We've learned a lot of things about self-leadership, the importance of personal branding, the importance of continuous learning, the importance of emotional intelligence. I could literally write down so much right now from the conversation. So thank you so much for coming through, and we just pray God's blessings on your life, on your family, and we continue to just wait to see what you're going to continue to do in this space of leadership. We celebrate you, and we celebrate the greatness of God on your life.
Thank you for hosting me. It's been an amazing conversation, and truly time did fly. And I wish you all the best, and I look forward to watching more of Awanachi. I look forward to seeing how you unfold as well. And thank you very much for hosting me. Have a lovely day.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so there you have it. I've been talking to Janice Matwi. She's the SCCA Country Director for Zambia. She's also the founder of A Seat at the Table. Do join me next time for another exciting episode of the Awanachi Conversations. These are real life conversations. Goodbye and God bless you.